Hey everybody, the other day I did a little talk going down the road. Today I want to do probably the first part in a series of videos, doing a little bit of a documentary and kind of a mock interview here, well, real interview with the club founder, Kevin Wiles. I'm going to talk a little bit about how things got started. So, Kevin, if you want to come on in and tell everybody kind of how things goes here. Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you want to tell everybody a little bit about the club and how things got started back in around '99?
Yeah, I remember back in high school, it was kind of the early days of the internet, and I remember looking up for information about Monte Carlos because I had one since I was 5 years old, and there was a couple of websites here and there, but it just seemed like there wasn't a whole lot of information about Monte Carlos, and back then the internet just wasn't what it is today. So I wanted to change that. I wanted to start out by putting out a little web page, kind of a personal web page that just taught people about Monte Carlos and what the differences were between the 3 years and what engines were offered and options, and tell about the SS. And I remember putting a section on the site about cars that were in movies.
Mm-hmm.
And color codes and stuff like that. Just a little info about it, and that went pretty well. I remember a guy that I met online playing video games online.
Okay.
A monster truck game, and we had this connection where he could do graphics and stuff for me, and he taught me over a little program, kind of like a chat program called ICQ, how to build a website.
Okay, yeah.
His name was David McLeary. So I owe a big debt of gratitude to him for being so patient and showing me how to build a website. Later I wanted to put a little message board on. So I looked up and we found this free message board system. So when you clicked on the message board, it would take you to this other site, which was our first generation Monte Carlo message board.
And if I remember correctly, it was called the first generation Monte Carlo web ring, or something to that effect.
There was a web ring that was something that I was part of, but I wasn't in charge of that. That was just a collection of websites that people joined to where people could find other websites through this link program.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So after a while, we started getting some regular message board visitors, and I had this epiphany one day, I guess you could say, to start a club. So I came on that little message board one day and I said, I have a big announcement to make in 5 days. Mm. And some people were starting to guess what it was going to be and stuff. And I announced I wanted to make a official first generation only club because it seemed like there was a lot of interest in fourth gen Monte Carlos online at that time, but not so much first gen. The tables have kind of turned nowadays. But I wanted to make that first generation only specific site and club. So in our first month, we had 8 members. Mm-hmm. We had a very good program where if you joined for, I don't remember if it was $20 or $25, you got a subscription to Super Chevy magazine.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And not only that, but you got a monthly newsletter mailed out. So we weren't making any money.
No. And at the time, you was handling all this stuff. Right?
I was doing every bit of it. there was people pitching in here and there, but I was doing all the mailing and the preparing of the newsletter and all of the website administration and stuff like that. Well, it was a pleasure to do because I was just a kid at home,
Right.
I was 20 years old, and it was a hobby of mine. I didn't have a wife and family to go to. That all changed after a few years. But I had plenty of time on my hands to devote to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed doing it. We had meets. The first one being at Pigeon Forge. I met 2 or 3 members there. Andreas was one.
Yeah, and he's still around, so that's...
And there was a guy named Conrad Schaaf. I'll never forget him. He was a great friend. Conrad Schaaf. He had a teal green 72. And he nicknamed, I don't remember if it's his nickname or his car's nickname, Tig. Like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. And he had this giant stuffed Tigger that rode with him everywhere he went. So it got a lot of attention on the strip, Pigeon Forge.
Yeah, now you can see some of those pictures from Pigeon Forge on FGMCC.com. If you go to the past meet photos, there's quite a few pictures even from way back then. Back then we didn't have cell phones with cameras like we do now. So now, we take kind of having pictures at disposal for granted. We're doing this video on a smartphone. Just not too many years ago, this video would be very pixelated on a phone. So things have changed for sure.
Right. Those videos, those pictures from our first meet were taken from a digital camera, a very early digital camera, probably less than 1 megapixel. And,
yeah.
And then the internet was such back then that you had to take that 1 megapixel picture and reduce it down.
Oh, wow.
To a size that would load on dial-up internet.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
The pictures aren't great from back then, but they've improved over the years. But I've met a lot of great friends over the years with the club, and I'm glad that it worked out the way it did. I was just first generation Monte Carlo Club was going to happen eventually.
Right. Yeah.
No matter if I had done it or someone else had.
Mm-hmm.
I was just in the right place at the right time with the right amount of spare time on my hands to make it happen. So that all changed.
Where was you at? Like we live here in Anderson. Do you remember where you was at when the idea came to you?
Right. In my parents' house when I was living at home still. I was probably 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I was going to Tri-County Technical College. And I remember sitting, I played a lot of video games. As you can see here, I'm a big video game fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
But played games and stuff and learned from that guy through the monster truck. We had a league where we would race each other online, which was very futuristic, it seemed like back then.
Yeah.
To be able to play multiplayer games through the internet.
Right, right.
And so we had a little league, and if it weren't for that guy, I would have never started that webpage. He doesn't even know it now, and I haven't talked to him in forever, but he doesn't know how instrumental he was in being able to create what.
Well, that's one reason why I want to do this, because I didn't even know that. That's we've been friends a long time, and I didn't even know that that's how that got started.
Right.
I know you did have you had the Cadillac Station Wagon website.
Mm-hmm.
And did that come before or after?
That was much after.
Okay.
That would have been in about 2003. I started creating that.
Right.
That website, I haven't gone on and updated it in years. It looks ancient. It's very old-fashioned. I can't even remember how to log into that page and update
Oh wow.
it.
Okay.
But it is still it's still
it's still
out
active.
there.
So that's a little bit about how the club got started in 2000. Now, anything else that was now talk briefly, and we may save this for another video, but we'll maybe follow it up. Go and mention it here. A lot of y'all have probably seen pictures on the internet of Bobby Allison's Coke machine. Some of which are old pictures, some of which are, I think, but most you're going to see on Super Chevy Hot Rod is actually this guy's here car, and now it's owned by Coca-Cola. Give them a little bit of a background about how that idea came to build the Coke machine.
So I had a opportunity back in, I think, 2000 to buy a parts car. So I went to Georgia to pick up the car, and it was going to be a car with no front end, and it was going to be like a $200 drag it home type thing, and I was just going to keep it for parts, for spare parts and stuff. What I didn't realize when I got there, he said, I actually have a better car than what I... Out in the woods, there was a 72 Monte Carlo that was complete.
Mm-hmm.
And he let me have it for the same price, and I said, well, that's it right there. So I brought it home, and I decided I wanted, as a young man and not a lot of money to spend on such things like that, but that I wanted to fix it up, and it would be my wife's car.
Okay.
We wanted her to have a classic car. Well, it was my girlfriend at the time.
Right.
We were pretty serious. So we had these ideas that we were going to fix this car up as a gold car with black stripes and just have a street car. But we were on vacation when it came to me that as rough as this car was and as expensive as it is to restore a car, that I could make a stock car, a replica out of it. But I didn't want to just make some half job. If I wanted to build this car, I wanted to build it as perfect of a replica as I could, but I didn't want it to be limited to not be able to drive on the street.
Right.
So within reason, I wanted to get it as close as I could of a replica to the exact car.
All right. And I think that's a good place to stop it. We'll do another video and let Kevin go into a lot more detail about building the Coke machine, as it's commonly called, and about a lot of the little details of the car and what made it function and how it functioned, and who made some of those pieces, and who done some of the work, and how some of the roll cage and that kind of thing were duplicated. Of course, this is 30 years later. Now it'd be 50 years later, but there was no internet back then, or a lot of records on how this thing was built. So a lot of magazines were used to actually reconstruct a lot of this car. So stay tuned on that story in another video. Like, share, comment. I'll be sharing this on FGMCC. And again, check out our Eastern meet this year. It's in Kodak, Tennessee. We'll be helping kind of coordinate it. Yep, that happens. See, that's not a scripted video at all. Things like that happen. I dropped something. So take care, and we'll be coming to you again here pretty soon.